Hey guys, I'm gonna just try real quick to walk you through how to make a PCA data set and basic plotting. We're not gonna go in super depth, keep this short, keep it simple, so you can eat in bite-sized chunks, because I think ggplot will take a lot more explaining. I don't want to put that all together with this. So today I'm just gonna be working with this data set up here. It's a RNA-seq run comparing different issue mutants with or without estrogen, without estrogen for extremely long time points. So if you want to get to this, you just replace everything with the U dots with the Gertz group 2. So that's my folder in Gertz group 2, and you should be able to get to it there. So without further ado, let's get in here. We'll go to that folder. We'll read our table here, get our diff results. So the output of this is just the output from DE-seq on this RNA-seq run. And it gives us, here we'll just have this so you can see this file here. So it gives us all of our base mean, log fold 2 change, and p adjusted values, and then all of our normalized counts data here. So for PCAs, we don't really care about all this other information. We just want to know about the counts, because that's what the prcomp function's looking at. So what we got to do is we got to strip everything out before this. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns of non-count data. So I'm just going to use this up here. So, oops, going to make a thing called counts, and we're taking that data table, the diff results, and we want all of the rows. So everything, so all of the rows, and then columns 7 through however many columns there are. That's how this length column names tells me how many columns there are. So if we run that, and now we look at our counts here, we can see now we've got all the count data. One thing you got to do, otherwise this won't work. Well, let's see here. We'll just try and run this. So let's say prcomp. That did work. Normally you want to strip out any rows with NAs. I might have already done that to this. That's probably why it worked. But if you strip those out, then we can run our prcomp function. So we got, we're gonna save that to the variable PCA. Now the prcomp function is, it's basically running an analysis on all of these counts and figuring out, like essentially, if you look at all the counts, which of these genes basically causes the largest separation between most of these sets. So if you imagine you plot each one of these genes in a scatter plot, you can imagine the larger the spread, the larger the amount of variance you're getting from that gene. And it actually does combinations of genes, I think, but that's what each of these kind of principal components will be. It'll be the sets of genes that contribute to the largest spread between all these columns. So the gene that separates the different samples the most. So we'll run this, we'll look at our PCA object. Let's see here, let's blow this sucker up. Okay, so the PCA object, essentially we get the standard deviation of each of these principal components. So that's the standard deviation of the actual genes, and then this PC is the actual calculated spread from the prcomp. So what I want to do, because this is pretty informative, is we also want to calculate the percent variance that each one of these principal components adds. So that we can do that taking the standard deviation. So essentially we're just going to take the standard deviation and divide it, the square of the standard deviation divided by the total square of the standard deviation, because if you remember, variance, square root of variance is your standard deviation. So paste that in there, and we're going to save it to the PCA object. So now if we look at our PCA $% variance, now we've got the percent variance. And now that we've got all that together, we can just quickly plot this. So this is, I'm just going to use the standard plot function. It's going to be pretty boring and pretty uninformative, but you'll be able to see a few of the things that you'll recognize from PCA plots. So first of all, we're doing plot. The rotation is what has all the distance information inside this. So we're doing that, and by default, it's just going to grab the first two columns. So principal component 1 and 2. If you didn't want it to, you could say PCA $ rotation. Let's see here, $, rotation, and then do like PC1. There's the column. Oh, this is why I shouldn't mess around when I'm making the videos. Any of you who have worked with me will have experienced this in real life. So essentially, these are. This is going to be, sorry. So that'll be PC1. So if you wanted to do a plot of, so we'll say we want to do PCA rotation. We'd want to do, say, 1 versus say 3. We could do it that way. But by default, if we just give it the rotation, it'll do 1 versus 2. And to make our thing a little more usable, we'll add the X label where we'll put in the percent variance with our labels so that people can understand how much those spreads are actually, how much difference there is between those spreads. So, okay, if we look at this, we've made our PCA plot here. You can see you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 clusters, maybe 5, depending on how it all splits out. But you can see the x-axis contributes almost 90% of the variance, 87%, whereas the y-axis is 2%. So if you're actually thinking about distances, these guys are all very significantly more separated, about 10 times as much separated as these two are here. So these two are probably actually kind of similar. It's a way you could look at this. So in the future, I'm going to show you how to use ggplot to color these. So if we look at our data set, we're looking at all MCF7s on this, but we're looking at D mutants, wild type, and Y mutants. And we're also looking at the effects of long-term estrogen deprivation versus short estrogen pulse, or just being grown in DMSO for a short time. So we'll add some color coding in the future and maybe even some labels so that we can see what these samples actually are. Alrighty, that's all I got for now.